around Baltimore. He's been so merciful that for like last several, I think 7 or 8 years, he's been coming to Baltimore regularly, giving us his blessings. In short, Rohinipriya Prabhu is a doctor actually from India, and then in early 90s he came in touch with Iskcon devotees since 95. He connected with moved to Iskcon party, and since then he's been wonderfully serving every year. Before he was vice president there, he also served as director of Iskcon Youth Forum. Now he's building a beautiful community in Aurangabad, actually. He's a general manager, building with love and affection, with the Shastra, the purity. Prabhuji is gearing up a wonderful community there. He travels all around the country, especially US. He comes, gives wonderful discourses. Prabhu's insight is so good. His counsels are so good. He's such a good counselor. I think many youth have really benefited because of Prabhu's wide experience. And I think I personally have been very favored, blessed by Prabhuji's association. He's guided so many times for so much. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, for coming here. We're so grateful for you.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be here with all of you. And I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to serve all the devotees at the Iskcon Baltimore congregation. Especially would like to thank His Grace Nilamada Prabhu. He reached out to me and gave me this opportunity. Thank you very much. Nilamada Prabhu, could you give me just 1 minute? Something is not working here. So just a minute. Is that okay?
Sure.
Just a minute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Sundaram Prabhu, Hari Bol. Hari Bol Mataji, Hare Krishna. Suri Mata is there too. Hare Krishna. Vivek Prabhu, Hari Bol. Amrish Prabhu is there also. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Is it a red skin monk you had, Amrish Prabhu? it's muted actually.
Yes, I have red skin mug, yes.
The name has to change now. Putin Prabhu, I think I'm going to send an email to Bhakti Rasayan Maharaj from Russia. See, I think the last 2 weeks, him and I think we'll see if he's available in the last 2 weeks. You haven't spoken to anybody, right, Prabhu, for the last 2 weeks of February? Yeah, so I'll speak to Bhakti Rasayan Maharaj today and an email to him. I think we should be able to get both. And I think Amogila Prabhu should be available during that time, so we should be able to cover both of these. Sundara Prabhu, thank you so much. I think this morning's the Bhagavatam thing was so beautiful. I joined there. The reading session, which started like one chapter, is very nice. So thank you so much. I was in the hospital, but I was still listening to part of it.
Okay, welcome. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm back. Sorry. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today I would want to focus on some of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a child, his childhood pastimes. And much has been said and spoken about the Lord's childhood pastimes. In fact, all the great demigods and great personalities, they worship this Balya Leela, the childhood pastimes of the Lord. So, childhood, this age between 0 to 5 years, but basically you're very more functional about 1 year of age, or maybe from 6 months after birth to 5 years of age. Bala Leela. It is called as Balyavastha, childhood. After that, you learn the ways of the world. You turn into a boy. That is called as Pauganda. So anyways, some children under 5 years of age were playing at our temple. Let us say they were playing at our temple at Baltmore. And there was some mischief done. So the children were a little afraid. They tried running away, but the mischief was caught. And especially one of the children was reprimanded. Typically, it is that one child that kind of leads others into mischief that gets a scolding. So one of the temple managers comes up to this child, 4-year-old child, and looks at him sternly and tries to teach him a lesson, or tries to not teach him a lesson, that is not the right phrase, but tries to make the child see some sense and mend his ways. So in a stern voice he says, "Where is Jagannath? Where is Lord Jagannath? Where is Lord Krishna?" The idea was that the child would understand that Lord Krishna is watching everyone at all times, and thus mend his way. Where is Lord Krishna? Where is Lord Jagannath? The poor child becomes very much afraid, and runs off. So he lives right beside the temple. His house, his residence is right beside the temple. So he runs off and enters his house and goes and hides in a closet. The child has an older brother, couple of years older than him, 6 years of age. So the brother, the older one, Dao, he goes to the closet, opens it, and looks at his Anuj, his younger brother, and says, "Why are you hiding?" And the younger one says, "Bhaiya, older brother, you should also hide. I think Lord Jagannath is missing, and they're asking about him." So the older brother becomes a little concerned and he says, "Why are they asking you? I think it must be because they think that we have stolen Lord Jagannath, or we have made some mischief with Lord Jagannath or Lord Krishna. So better hide, and they will not find us." So such moments of childhood are very interesting. I wanted to open up with this story so that our morning is delightful, especially here in the United States. When Lord Gauranga was a little child, he developed a program. Just like in the late 60s, maybe about 1968 or 69, 68 most probably, or could be 67 also. One day Srila Prabhupada saw that many devotees had come in late because they had been out almost the entire night and they had been doing Sankirtan. So Srila Prabhupada was up at quite early in the morning and there was no one else. Everyone else was sleeping. So Srila Prabhupada, he kind of instituted what we call as the morning program. Lord Chaitanya, little Nimai, who was just a year old, or maybe 2 years old, maybe 2 years old, a couple of years old, he instituted a program. And according to this program, he would demand things that were impossible to obtain of people who are around him. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur says, "Akashe udiya jaye, pakshitah chahe, na paile kandiya, dhulaye gadi jaye." Kandiya, cry, and dhulaye, gadi, roll in the dust. So sometimes he would see a bird flying in the sky and he would desire to have it. And when it was not given to him, he would cry and roll in the dust. So he would demand things that were impossible to obtain. And when he would not have it, then he would cry and roll in the dust. Sometimes he would demand for the moon or the stars in the sky. And when he did not get them, he would cry and thrash his hands, his arms and legs, and roll. Seeing the young child the most beautiful child, cry. Everyone tried to pacify him. They would take him in his lap. Oh, sorry, they would take him on their lap. But little Nimai, little Vishwambhar would not relent and would continue to demand, give me, Deo Deo Bole, give me, give me. He would demand for those objects. And people would be helpless. They would try to pacify the child, but the child would not be pacified. And the child would cry. Thakur Vrindavan Das, he says something interesting. And this was the program that the Lord himself had instituted. Sabek matra che mahapratikara Hari nama shunile na kande prabhuara হাতে তালি দিয়া সবে বলে হরি হরি তখন সুস্থির হয়ে চাঞ্চল্য পাসরি. There was, however, one sure remedy when the Lord would be in such a state. Whenever he would hear the names of Lord Hari, he would stop crying. When everyone clapped their hands and chanted the name of Hari, 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 or Hare Krishna, he would be pacified. The Lord would be pacified and give up his restlessness. So very soon, the people around him understood his program. And whenever the Lord would be crying, they would all clap their hands. They would gather around him, clap their hands, and they would begin chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the rhythmic clapping and the beautiful smiles and the loud chanting of the holy names was so endearing that little Nimai, Lord Chaitanya, would start dancing. And seeing him dance, everyone would be very happy. Vrindavan Das Thakur says that one particular day, in spite of everyone chanting, the Lord would not stop crying. For those of you who grew up in India, sometimes in the colloquial language, in the daily dealings, when things, when one is really exasperated and things go out of hand, in Hindi, the saying is, typically everyone mouths these words, they speak these words, Baap Re. When one is in pain, like one has hurt oneself, one says, Ui Ma, or Mare, remembers the mother. But whenever there is a very, very frustrating situation, somehow or the other, one calls out to one's father, Baap Re. And if a child is really causing us frustration, we may address the child and say, Baap, Re Baap, Are Mere Baap, like that. Like, come on, stop. So Vrindavan Das Thakur, he says in Bengali, in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, he says, Shabai bole na, shona Baap Re Nimai, oh Nimai, oh our Baap, Nimai, bhalo kore nacha, ei Hari Naam gai. So when little Nimai was not relenting this particular day, they all said, Oh Nimai, Come and dance. Every time we chant Hare Krishna, you dance. And then you are so happy. So we are chanting the names of Lord Hari. Hey Harinama Gai, please come and dance. But the Lord would not listen. And he continued to cry. Shaba bole bola bapa kanda ki karana. They asked him, Nimai, why are you crying? What is the reason? Please let us know. What do you want? We will give you whatever you desire. We'll bring it to you. Stop crying. And little Nimai becomes dramatic. Now, typically, in the Bengali culture, drama is a part of life. They are very, very expressive in their day-to-day activities, even if they have to a regular a Bengali family or a regular Bengali person. Now there are people who are very sober. They'll sit with straight backs and be very grave and sober, but not typical. There's a lot of expression, movement of hands gestures, or facial expressions. So little Nimai had observed his elders around, especially the ladies. He had heard the way they expressed themselves. So Vrindavan Das Thakur says, Prabhu bole jodi mora prana raksha chah, tabe chata dhui brahmanera ghare jah. The Lord replied, if you want to save my life, prana raksha chah. That is dramatic, isn't it? A little child saying like that. If you want to save my life, tabe jhat dui brahmanera ghare jah. Go run to the house of the two brahmanas. Their names are Jagadish Pandit and Hiranya Pandit. Jagdish Pandit, Hiranya Bhagwat, says Vrindavan Das Thakur. They are both great devotees, they are Bhagavatas, and I desire something from them. Today is Ekadashi. They are both fasting. But they have prepared varieties of varieties of foodstuffs for Lord Vishnu. If I could eat their offering, my life will be saved. I will be cured, and I would be able to walk. I would be able to live. That was very dramatic. When the elders of the house and the ladies, and they heard this, Mother Sachi, who's the mother of Lord Gauranga, she heard him speak like that. Jagannath Mishra, Lord Chaitanya's father, he heard this. They all were devastated. Impossible. Mother Sachi said, dear child, you are requesting something that is not sanctioned in our culture, in our tradition. It is not sanctioned in the scriptures. Today is Ekadashi. And the others, when they heard the child speak such, they all started laughing, thinking that the child is being a little childish. And they said, it's okay, Nimai, don't worry, stop crying. We will give you whatever you want. Now, Jagdish Pandit and Hiranya Bhagwat, or Jagdish Pandit and Hiranya Pandit, These were two brothers. Originally, they were from a place called as Guwahati, which is in present-day Assam, northeast India. And after their parents had departed, they had moved to Sri Mayapur Dham, to Navadvip, and they had taken up residence next to the house of Jagannath Mishra. So they were very dear friends and neighbors of Jagannath Mishra. They were great devotees of the Lord. Jagdish Pandit was there when Lord Chaitanya was born, or when Lord Chaitanya appeared as the son of Mother Sachi. He and his wife, they loved Lord Gauranga like their very own son. They had a son too. And his wife, whose name is Dukhini Devi, she was specially attached to little Nimai. She was like a second mother to him. She would very often cradle him. She would take care of him as a little baby, even before he had begun crawling, or when he was only a few months old. So they were like a second family to little Nimai. At the same time, they were very respectable people. So Jagannath Mishra was very much concerned. The other people, every day there would be so many neighbors and villagers that would come to the house of Jagannath Mishra just to see little Nimai. They passed on the message to the two Brahmanas. And when they heard the child's request, they became very much satisfied. What happened later, I will bring out or discuss that after some time. So here is little Nimai wanting to eat the offerings that were or the food that had been offered to Lord Vishnu on the day of Ekadashi. Now, according to the scriptures, as a child, one may or may not observe according to the Smriti Shastras, one may or may not observe the rules of fasting on Ekadashi, because a child is in the growing phase, and it is very important that the development of the child take place appropriately. So the Smriti scriptures, where all the rules are laid down, they say that a child is not vindicted, is not held responsible for not being able to follow the rules of the scriptures. This point is also brought out very, very briefly when Mandukya Muni, he curses Yamaraj for punishing him for an act that had been performed in when he was a child. So up to 5 years of age, there is some leeway given to a child. So I'm just pointing that out for our information. Anyway, so Lord Gauranga was insisting on eating their offerings. Now, if some of the devotees noticed, then today the topic that I had sent out is I eat when I goes. So when I sent out this topic, like day before yesterday, to Vivek, he replied back that he was confused because the topic seems a little bit senseless. So we will see whether it is senseless or not. Maybe some of you have figured out. And I'm happy that you figured it out. So I eat. So it is about the Lord's pastimes, and it is connected with eating. There's going to be descriptions about the Lord eating. So Lord Gauranga, we leave him in Navadvip. He is wanting to eat the food offerings made to Lord Vishnu. And now we come to the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is when Krishna is a little child. Shukdev Goswami says that the two boys, Krishna and Balaram, they have just started walking. So now they are toddlers. Kalenalpena rajarshe Ramakrishnaschа gokule Aghrishta janubhi padbhir Vichakramato ranjasa. So they have just begun to walk. Up till now they had been crawling. And now when they learned to walk, and they could walk independently of their own, then there was no stopping them. They would be all over the place. They would be, running here and there. And that is when they found out their friends. So they, along with their friends, began to play a lot of games, as little children do. And seeing them playing, the residents of Vrindavan would be in bliss. And along with their playful mood, there was this restlessness within them. You see, toddlers are quite restless. And this restlessness would be very attractive. In fact, many of the ladies of Vrindavan would just postpone some of their activities to be with Krishna and Balaram as they were playing along with their friends, or they were expressing their restlessness. And Shukdev Goswami says, Krishnasya gopyo ruchiram vikshakaumara chapalam shinvantya kila tanmatur iti hocho samagata. The gopis found Krishna to be very attractive, especially his Kaumara Chapalam, his restlessness in the Kaumara age. Kaumar is also called as Balya, synonyms. So this is Kaumara Leela or Balya Leela. And Shrinvantya Kilatan Matur. Kila means indeed, or this was indeed, this restlessness was indeed, and so on and so forth. So Kila Tanamatur tat matuhu. Mutter, German, mother. So Krishna and Balaram's mother. So here it is referring to Yashoda and Rohini, but especially to Yashoda. Shrinvantya. So the attraction that the ladies of Vrindavan, the mothers of Vrindavan would feel towards Krishna and his prankish activities, his restless behavior, this would be expressed by the neighborhood ladies to Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda would be very eager to hear them speak about her little child. And then begins the beautiful description of Krishna's childhood pastimes. Some of them are so well known and they have been spoken about generation after generation. And even if we have heard them again and again and again, still the ears are very much attracted to hear these pastimes being mentioned or these activities being mentioned. O Yashoda, said the neighborhood ladies, the Braja Gopis, the mothers, your son sometimes comes to our houses before the milking of the cows and the calves. Now this is Krishna as a toddler. So he can just go anywhere he pleases. There are no doors to stop him, no gates that would hold him back. Children kind of enter places. Toddlers do that, they kind of just creep in through various openings. So he comes, and before the cows have been milked, he releases the calves. The calves drink up all the milk. And when our husbands, they come to milk the cow, they find that there is no more milk. They are concerned and they look at little Krishna, who simply stands there and smiles. Sometimes he devises some processes by which he steals palatable yogurt, butter, and milk, which he then eats and drinks. When the monkeys assemble, he divides it with them. And when the monkeys have the bellies so full that they won't take any more, he breaks the pots. Sometimes if he gets no opportunity to steal butter or milk from our house because we have carefully hidden them or they are over, he expresses anger. And then he troubles our little children, our babies who are in their cradle. They begin crying, and Krishna will run away. So as a little child, Krishna's activities in Vrindavan were basically centered around butter, yogurt, and milk. Most of his pastimes at the Kaumara age, as a toddler, were centered around butter, milk, and he was constantly scheming how to enter the homes of his neighbors and steal their butter. And he had actually enlisted people into his team, his little butter stealing gang. And they would every day come up with so many ways to do that. And Mother Yashoda was listening to all the ladies speak like that. Then the ladies said, And obviously now Krishna is a little more grown up, maybe about 3 years of age. So this is almost every day, but like daily news. So the ladies speak. When the milk and the yogurt are kept high on a swing, like a rafter, hanging from the ceiling, and Krishna and Balaram cannot reach it, they arrange to reach it by piling up various planks, like little children lifting up planks of wood and placing it, stacking them up. Or sometimes they turn over a grinding mortar and climb on top of it, being quite aware of what is in the pot and still not being able to reach the pot. Standing up on these mortars, wooden mortars turned upside down, they would take a stick and pick holes in the overhanging pots, and the contents of the pots would spill down, and then they would enjoy it. Sometimes when the elderly ladies who were of Krishna's granny's age, they would be in their homes, Krishna and Balaram would sneak into their houses and go into a dark corner. And because of the various jewels and their bodily effulgence, the jewels on their body and the bodily effulgence, it would brighten up that place. And the elderly ladies would be taken aback. What is there in the dark? And if we try and hide our butter pots in the dark rooms, then by their bodily effulgence, the gopis would feel that it is the effulgence of the ornaments that they were wearing. They would light up the room, and then they would steal the butter. Very often Krishna would be caught stealing, and he would be chastised. Oh, so now you've become a thief? This is how the son of our king, Nanda Maharaj, is behaving? And Krishna would reply back, I am not a thief. You are a thief. And all the while, as the ladies were speaking, Krishna would be right there, little Krishna. And they would say, no, just look at him, dear Yashoda. As we are speaking about all his antics, he's sitting there before you like a good boy. His face has such innocence written on it. And then the gopis would also look at Krishna, and Mother Yashoda would look at Krishna. And Krishna, thinking that maybe Mother Yashoda would be angry at him, he would look at her with fear in his eyes. Please, please, don't chastise me. And Mother Yashoda would not chastise him. And the gopis would completely be mesmerized looking at Krishna's face. And everyone would be caught up in transcendental bliss. Rather than be concerned, Mother Yashoda would mildly smile at Krishna. And it was so much fun every day in Vrindavan. Everyone would feel so blessed. Each lady would feel that Krishna was their life and soul. So, this was the daily activity of Krishna. And in so many ways, Krishna would devise plans, or he would devise means to steal butter from the ladies. And Shukdev Goswami says that these ladies of Braj, they were so fortunate. They were simple ladies. They were not very learned in scriptures. They had these are not ladies that would be updating their Facebook status every day or have new pictures, change their DP status on WhatsApp every day. Just simple ladies. And what was not even available to the great demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to the hosts of demigods. They were not so fortunate to be able to see the beautiful childhood pastimes of Krishna every day. That great fortune was received by the residents of Vrindavan. One day, when Krishna was a little older, but still, Krishna was still a Kumara. He was still in his Kaumara Avastha or Balya Avastha. Mother Yashoda, who had been trying to churn yogurt into butter for her son, was very, very disturbed because Krishna had destroyed that butter pot. Now, this pastime is very famous as Damodar Leela. And very quickly, we will see some of the aspects of this Damodar Leela. So she wanted to let Krishna know that his naughtiness was not very helpful. So there was some concern, some anger within her. So she, to be able to offer good teachings to Krishna, she had to get hold of him. So when Krishna saw her a little angry, he started running away from her. So she ran after him. And after a lot of effort, she was completely fatigued. She did catch up to Krishna. And Shukdev Goswami says, Somatu svenna gatraya virasta kabarasraja drishtva parishramam Krishna kripaya sita swabandhane. Drishtva parishramam Krishna, when Krishna saw his mother so fatigued, kripaya sita swabandhane, he agreed to be bound by her. He became very merciful towards her and he agreed to be bound by her. So Mother Yashoda, she wanted to bind Krishna to a wooden mortar. Shukdev Goswami says that the great and powerful controllers of the universe like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Lord Indra, they are all under the control of the Supreme Lord. Yet the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. He comes under the control of his devotee. So, Mother Yashoda is trying to tie up Krishna, and she is not able to do so. And she uses up all the rope that is there in her house to try and tie up Krishna. Finally, Krishna sees that Mother Yashoda is very anxious, and he agrees to Mother Yashoda's desire to tie him up. And Shukdev Goswami, when he sees that Krishna agrees to be tied up, it gives him such happiness. And he expresses that happiness. He says, Nemam virincho na bhavo na shrirapyanga sangshraya prasadam lebhire gopi yattat prapa vimuktida. Prasadam lebhire gopi. What was not even affordable or was not afforded or given to Shri, the goddess of Lakshmi. What to speak about Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva? The goddess of Lakshmi is the Lord's better half. That prasad, that mercy, which was not even made available to her, was made available to Mother Yashoda. Just a simple lady. And the reason Krishna was in this situation is because he had broken the pot of a yogurt that was being churned into butter, and then he had taken a pot of butter and he was sitting on an upturned wooden mortar and he was feeding the monkeys the butter. So again and again and again, the scriptures mention this fact that Krishna, who is a very personal God, he's a person. He's attracted by the simplicity of his devotees, or the simplicity that is within the heart of his devotee. These devotees are not great scholars, they are not big time achievers. They do not even want to be the best of the transcendentalists. All they want is to see Krishna happy. That gives them satisfaction. That gives them happiness. So coming back to Chaitanya Leela, when the Brahmanas, they heard that little Nimai wants the food offerings of Lord Vishnu, they said, which is basically now prasad, but because it is Ekadashi, they are not going to honor that prasad on the day of Ekadashi. They said, oh, this is an amazing demand. We have never heard of such an intelligent child. Everyone is wondering, how does a child know that today is Ekadashi and they have made special offerings to the child, to Lord Vishnu, and no one would be honoring it? How did he know that today is Ekadashi? How did he know that we have prepared all kind of foodstuffs for the Lord? We can understand that since this child is so attractive, Gopal must have manifested in his body. Lord Narayan performs pastimes with the body of this child. Sitting in his heart, Lord Narayan makes the child speak. Thinking like this, the two Brahmanas brought the various offerings and happily gave them to Nimai. Another occasion, a simple mendicant had come to the house of Jagannath Mishra, and he was trying to make an offering unto his Gopal, his worshipable deity, and little Nimai would appear there when he was all alone. And when he had his eyes closed and he was chanting the mantras to make that offering to Lord Gopal, and when the chanting of mantras was done, he would open his eyes and he would see little Nimai eating all those offerings. He would go, hi, 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 hi. My dear child, what have you done? Oh, my dear, oh, what is... You're eating the offerings that have been made to Lord Gopal. And finally, little Nimai revealed to him that he is the same Gopal, the cowherd son of Nanda Baba. And the mendicant was happy beyond all imagination. So, similarly, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find that the wives of the Brahmanas, the Vedic Brahmanas, are patrol. That particular day, Krishna told his friends, today we shall not take our lunch boxes because I have a surprise for all of you. And the boys, the cowherd boys, they loved surprises. So they played the entire morning, and then towards mid-afternoon or towards early afternoon, they said, Krishna, we don't have our lunch boxes. What are we going to eat? And Krishna says, oh, very in a nearby place, very not far from here, within walking distance, there are there is a lot of food stuff available. So how do we find this place? Said his friends. And Krishna said, oh, there's a yajna going on. So you let them know that Krishna and Balaram want some food. Krishna and Balaram, they are asking for food, and they will give you food. So the cowherd boys did that. They went there. However, when they went there, the Brahmanas refused. So they came back to Krishna and Balaram, and Krishna said, well, what happened? And they said, with the Brahmanas, they said, hey, this food has not even been, it's not even offered. So you all should not even think of eating this food. It's an offense. So Krishna said, really? Did you ask the wives of the Brahmanas? And they said, no. So he said, go and ask the wives. And when the Brahmanas' wives heard that Krishna and Balaram had come there, they were very near to their homes. They picked up all the food. They did not even think that let us prepare something different, because this is what we have already prepared is for the offerings and the sacrifice, and we should prepare something different for Krishna and Balaram. They felt that there's no time, Krishna and Balaram are hungry. So they picked up all that food and they brought it to Krishna and Balaram. And he blessed them. And later on, when the Brahmanas realized what had happened, they felt so miserable that they had lost the opportunity to serve Krishna and Balaram. And Shukdev Goswami, he states the regret that the Brahmanas had within their heart. The Brahmanas say, Hitvanyan bhajate yam shri padasparsha shaya sakrit swatma dosha pavargena tadiyachna janamohini. Janamohini, Krishna completely bewilders everyone in this world. No one can bewilder him. He is the master of all. And the master of all that exists. Tadiyachna, he had come to beg for food from us. And what did we do? We did not respond. Oh, we are so unfortunate. Krishna had come to beg. So, when Jagdish, coming back to Chaitanya Leela, when Jagdish Pandit and Henry Pandit, they understood that little Nimai wanted prasad, wanted Vishnu prasad on Ekadashi, they said, dear child, please eat these foodstuffs. Our desire to serve Krishna is fulfilled today. And Vrindan Das Thakur says, Krishna kripa haile emana buddhi hoya dasa vino annera e buddhi kabhu naya. He says, only by Krishna kripa, only by the mercy of Krishna does one have such intelligence. And dasa vino annera e. And who has such an intelligence? Only a servant of Krishna can have such intelligence, no one else. Only Krishna's servant can have such an intelligence. Therefore, to be able to to receive the designation of being a servant of Krishna is the one and only blessing. You cannot even say it is the greatest blessing. It is the one and only blessing. Everything else is not a blessing. The only blessing is to be able to receive the designation of Krishna Das, to be able to perform our activities as a servant of Krishna. And unfortunately, there are challenges. What are those challenges? Our Neela Madhav Prabhu, we know, is a doctor by profession. So, from that perspective, from the medical perspective, if one is sick, then one needs to be treated. And we have a particular sickness, a particular challenge. And for that, we need an expert physician or an expert surgeon. An expert surgeon whose prescription would be something like this, or whose notes, medical notes about a treatment would read something like this: I removed your ego, and it turns out that is what was clogging your reality. The spiritual master is that expert physician. And when we surrender to the spiritual masters, basically spiritual masters is someone who's very expert at spiritual subject matters and can show us the way forward, can help us move ahead, evolve in our spiritual journey. So it would be so nice if we could receive a prescription like this, or we could have this written down in our in the medical notes about our treatment. I removed your ego, for that is what was clogging your sense of reality. Ego is, or this pride that we have about things or achievements, is well understood. It is not that we are not aware of it. In our attempt to be able to purify ourselves as early as possible, a sadhaka, a practicing devotee, has to be careful, alert, that in order to keep on moving ahead with good momentum, one must try and avoid these obstacles which come, these hurdles which come in our lives in the form of, in various forms of ego or pride. For an overinflated ego which is wrapped in an undeserved sense of entitlement simply earns us a first class ticket to the back of the queue. Typically, ego comes along with a sense of entitlement. I deserve this. Knowledge is helpful, but what is more helpful is knowledge in practice. So that is called as Vigyan. Vigyan and Ahankar are inversely proportional. As one increases, the other decreases. So the more we have realized knowledge, the easier it would be to jump over or to avoid these obstacles of ego in our life. But sometimes It seems just too cool to be egoistic. You know? Oh yeah, I'm too cool. I don't have any ego. I'm better than that. As soon as I say I'm better than that, I fall into the trap. Because some people don't realize that ego is the defense mechanism of small people who need to make themselves look big. That is it. They are very, very sankuchit man, narrow-minded, but they want to be seen as broad-minded people. Overinflated expression of one's identity. And Krishna is turned away by the presence of this ego. We cannot serve, if we serve our ego, then Krishna, he feels that he is not needed. Like after years of practice, one practicing devotee says to another, these years of practice have made me realize what my real challenges are. My real challenges are my own aspirations, my desires. My real challenge is my own sense of false pride. And I know, I have understood that I have to overcome that. I have understood that I have to become free of it. And I have learned the art of making my mind peaceful. And I've learned the art of being free of all of these anarthas, unneeded things in my life. I've learned that art. And finally, when we conclude our realization, we say, just see, very soon I would be a pure devotee. And as soon as we make that statement, just see, very soon I would be a pure devotee. It is like pouring water over fire. It washes away all our realizations. The more one attains purity, the more one feels that one must not waste even a single moment to serve Krishna. And therefore, if someone asks a realized person, where can I find a devotee of Krishna? They always point out to someone else and they say, oh, such and such person is a great devotee. I am simply his or her servant. Because one is very passionate or very much enthusiastic about wanting to serve Krishna every single moment. There is no room for anything else. And these are the people for whom Krishna feels great affection. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. Those who offer me a leaf, a fruit, some water, or a flower in devotion. And devotion means they are completely engrossed moment to moment in serving Krishna. Krishna is theirs. Tad am bhaktyo bharitam ashnami prayatatma. Krishna says, I eat their offering. Their devotion makes me feel hungry. So when this material ego, this false ego leaves us, then this pure desire of of wanting to offer loving service to Krishna and Krishna only arises within the heart. It awakens within the heart. It blazes within our consciousness when the ego is gone. And that makes Krishna hungry to accept our offering of loving devotional service. And that is when Krishna eats. So today's topic, I eat when I goes, basically refers to Krishna accepts our offerings, our service. This is Krishna saying that I accept your offering when your ego goes away, your false ego goes away, your false pride goes away. So I eat when I goes away. So I hope I have done justice to this topic. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That was so beautiful class. I think the way you mentioned about the lecture, the stories, and then how for the ego, I think we all actually are we are culprits of all this stuff there. And I think every time you remind us how the way you explain about the practical realized knowledge, and we can go over perfect and complete, really helps out connecting together with the dots for that. So really appreciate that, Prabhuji. We'll have devotees can unmute, and if there are any questions, they can ask Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I'm sorry for asking you a question about the topic the other day. Now it makes total sense. How you very nicely connected Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and Lord Krishna's pastimes. Prabhuji, the question I have is, you spoke about the false ego component which is there in all of us, and so that is something that we need to regularly or consciously work upon, and you also gave a hint on how we should do that by taking shelter of Guru, because he is the one who's going to smash our ego through his Vani. But the question I have is, Prabhuji, is oftentimes this ego component comes out, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly. Is it okay to feel remorse or feel bad after exposing our ego in various circumstances within our devotional life or personal life? Feeling remorse and praying to the Lord, is that because, or is it like it's like, again, we are like the elephant example that Prabhupada gives in his books, putting the mud over us again and again.
Thank you for asking that question. Briefly paraphrasing it is remorse. After understanding what our challenges are, is the feeling of remorse good? Any emotions, the answer is that any emotions should be based on reality. Sometimes we understand reality as our existence in this material world, in this material form. We understand that as reality, which is not true. this is dependent reality. This is not independent reality. The material world, the material form is dependent on uh, the existence of the spiritual world and the existence of the spiritual form. If there was no existence of the spiritual form, then the material world would not exist too. The material form, the material body would be non existent. So, reality is the existence of the soul. The material body is temporary reality. So, the challenges that we face are in relationship to us believing that we are this material body. And if we have learned lessons and those lessons bring forth remorse, then that remorse is also in relationship to this material reality, this temporary reality. We feel remorseful that we expressed our ego, or we expressed our false pride. And just because we have knowledge, we read that the spiritual, or we hear that the spiritual masters do this and the spiritual masters do that. It is like somebody hears that, for those of us who are from India, cricket is a big thing there. So we hear that this is how Virat Kohli plays. Doesn't really mean that we know we could do the same, we could achieve the same objective. Years and years of practice is behind Virat Kohli's play, the way he plays on the cricket field. So just because we have the knowledge, oh, that was a square drive or that was a pull, that is simply theoretical knowledge. So similarly, the spiritual master helps us see, or the spiritual master makes us do this. This is all theoretical knowledge. This is what we hear in lectures or we read in books. If we were able to serve the spiritual masters, Narottam Das Thakur served Lokanath Goswami. And if we have that opportunity, if we have the opportunity to do that day in and day out, then there is realized knowledge. Hence, it is important to have spiritual masters. And even a child can be a spiritual master, provided we learn, the child helps us to understand teachings, and based on those teachings, we have realized knowledge. So coming back to remorse, if remorse is simply felt because, oh, I heard this and then I examined myself and then I felt that I am lacking and hence I feel remorse, everything is being perceived through the lens of me being this material body. There are also the teachings, or the very same mouth from which we hear, the very same mouth of the spiritual masters from which we hear teachings that help us feel remorse. We hear to a larger extent the wonderful dealings that Krishna has with his devotees. So if remorse is accompanied with hope, then that remorse is helpful. But if remorse is by itself, then that could actually put us into bigger dualities in life. I hope this can be understood. Remorse by itself is a negative quality, and negative exists only because there is positive. Negative is the opposite of the dual existence of positive and negative. Positive does not need the existence of negative. Anything that is positive does not need the existence of negative. There could be negative, But positive does not need the existence of negative. Negative needs the existence of positive. So remorse by itself may not be very helpful. But remorse along with hope may be helpful. And that is what we see when we read the remorse that is expressed by great saintly personalities. That, my dear Krishna, these are my faults. My dear spiritual master, these are my faults. I've examined myself and I feel very remorseful. At the same time, I have hope. You are Patita Pavan. Lord Chaitanya, you are Patita Pavan. Mosama Patita Prabhu Paibe. Where will you find somebody Patita Pavana Hetu Tabhavat? Your name is Patita Pavan. You are the most magnanimous of all the incarnate. Nahi Paibe Ar. Mosama Patita Prabhu. Na Paibe Ar. So, the hope that Krishna is Patita Pavan is more qualified than us. Krishna as Patita Pavan is more qualified to save us. So many a times, being focused just on self-improvement, with not being able to express one's fortune or one's hope that Krishna is saving us, Krishna will save us, can lead us to a state of depression. So I would encourage everyone, to my own personal experience, this is my 2 cents worth of realization that the hope that Krishna is so wonderful. Like yesterday I was giving a lecture and I just kind of quoted this, that if I brag about my love for Krishna, then I realize that I fail on a daily basis, so there's nothing to brag about. But if I brag about Krishna's love for me, I realize that that never fails. So the first part of this statement expresses remorse. The second part of this statement expresses hope. And being hopeful is the birthright of every living entity. Being remorseful only serves the cause of being hopeful. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Really, you put everything through, Prabhuji. You added the hope element that I lacked. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. I want to ask you something. Like generally, when we hear pastimes of Krishna, what is the right mode to hear them, and is there any element of receiving that we need to follow, or just listen like we hear any story like that? I just want to understand.
Is there any particular mood in which we should be hearing Krishna's pastimes? I'm trying to briefly paraphrase a question. So the answer is, with my little intelligence, whatever I have understood from Srila Prabhupada's teachings, his advice for all of us is very simple. When we hear about Krishna, the best scenario for all the listeners is to hear about Krishna as it is. And we have to then use our intelligence to see how we can hear about Krishna as it is. So if we can uh, try and hear uh, from people that inspire us uh, with particular practices. Let me give you a little example. There was a thief that happened to come to. This is a very typical story. Maybe its moral is relevant. So the thief happened to come into a gathering where there was Krishna Katha going on, and he hears about Krishna. He's never heard about Krishna. He hears about the place where Krishna lives. He's never heard about Vrindavan. Um, he hears about how in Vrindavan there's a river Yamuna. He's never heard about. He's a thief. Never heard about Yamuna, and then he hears that Krishna, how he is beautifully decorated by Mother Yashoda, and that really excites him because being a thief, he feels that if this child is always kind of roaming around the banks of this river Yamuna all by himself, it would be so easy to steal from him. So the thief makes it a point to go to Vrindavan, to find out, to search for Krishna, not just Google search, but actually go to Vrindavan. And this is a time when Krishna, this story does not really say whether it is about 5,000 years ago. It is most probably uh, the time when Krishna has already finished his pastimes, because this is Krishna Katha going on. This is some lecture going on where the thief is hearing. So as it is, can be hearing as it is. So actually the thief goes to Vrindavan, meets up with Krishna, and then his heart changes. People's heart change in Vrindavan, you know. That is why they kind of imprint this saying on the T-shirt, "I lost my heart in Vrindavan." I hope they lose themselves in Vrindavan too and never um, come back. They become big time losers. And that is, I'm trying to just be a little jovial here. Anyways, um, Vrindavan is a beautiful place. So as it is means um, hearing it from someone whose talks are inspiring because we know that they have lived their talk, not just because they are good orators, but we know that they have lived their talk. So there's a lot of practice in what they speak. So we need to know the person. If we have the opportunity to associate with great orators, with great persons who deliver very inspiring lectures, if we can associate with them, it is a great fortune to have that, and one must try to have such fortune cookies with us, you know. And hearing as it is also would imply that we apply what we have heard to the extent that we can as it is. So the best kind of hearing is when we hear as it is. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
I think we'll stop here. It's 11 o'clock. I think it's Ekadashi. So Prabhuji, thank you so much for your mercy. We're so grateful you came, you spent your time. And I think on the Ekadashi day, we got really enlightened. And now we're jovial, hearing Krishna Katha, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice to hear your voice after a long time. We haven't seen you for a while.
Krishna willing?
We haven't seen you for a while, so hope we can see you this year.
Yeah, I was saying Krishna willing, that may happen. Thank you.
Very nice class, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.